Guys, what's up? It's Snack Pack. I got a fresh haircut and just slammed 3 cups of coffee, and I am pumped to talk about airspace. I'm in an F-18 right now. The rest of the airspaces we're going to talk about, I'll be in a helicopter, but right now we're in Class Alpha airspace. You can see up here, my altimeter up on my HUD is reading 18,000, or in a little bit of a climb here. So Class A airspace, 18,000 feet and above. If we look in the far aim, in the far 91.155, this tells us almost everything we need to know about airspace. All right, and you can see Class A airspace says not applicable, flight visibility and distance from clouds. That's one of the most important things to remember about different classes of controlled airspace is cloud clearance and visibility requirements, right? And the whole idea is to keep you safe and keep you away from IFR traffic. And the reason why it says not applicable in Class Alpha airspace is because 18,000 feet and above, Class Alpha is IFR only. So in order to fly up here, gotta be on an IFR flight plan. Simple as that. Moving on from Alpha, now we're in Class Bravo. Class Bravo is the big, busy airspaces. All right, these are going to be your Atlanta Hartsfield. Right now we're in New Orleans, right? All the biggest, I think Chicago O'Hare, some of the really big airspaces, right? LaGuardia, I believe, is in a Bravo. So as we look on ForeFlight here, you're going to see it looks, there's a lot of stuff going on in this airspace. Right now we're at Louis Armstrong International Airport in New Orleans, all right? So this solid blue line right here, right? I'm kind of highlighting it with red ink here. Solid blue line indicates Class Bravo. Now we have a bunch of little designations as to when it starts. So right here, it says from the surface to 7,000 feet. And that's going to be an MSL figure, all right? Mean sea level. So in order to know where exactly that starts and ends, we need to get a current altimeter setting, all right? If you look up here, it says 600 to 7,000, right? So just add 2 zeros on the end of these and you'll get the airspace. In order to take off from Class Bravo airspace, a few things I need to know. So first, I need to look in my far aim, 91.155, and I look at Class Bravo, it says I need to be 3 statute miles visibility and clear of clouds. That just means I have to be clear of the clouds, all right? So if I go and manipulate my weather a little bit here, we can go to overcast, oh boy. And we'll do this, we'll put this overcast layer really low, right? So it's gonna start at about 1,000 feet. We'll just say 1,000 feet here. Typically, I would get up with the New Orleans approach controller and I would ask for a clearance to take off out of here. And they would say, yep, you're cleared for takeoff, contact tower, right? You're cleared, and they would give me a specific clearance. They would say, stay at this altitude, head this direction, right? Generally, I tell them what I want to do, and if I have a VFR flight plan filed, that makes it a lot easier for them, right? So we're gonna go ahead and take off, and it looks like we're heading west. So I'll take off from runway 29, and you can follow me on ForeFlight here. So I'm going to climb up, and I set the clouds at 1,000 feet. Clouds are always reported in AGL, right, above ground level. So MSL doesn't really matter, right? But New Orleans, the airport here,
follow the aircraft on final.
if we look here, it says it's 4 feet above MSL, right? So essentially, my AGL altitude is going to be pretty similar to my MSL altitude. So check this out. There's 1,000 feet. I'm in the clouds. You see I'm starting to punch in here? That's very bad, all right? If you do that in real life and you go completely into the cloud and you can't see anything, you're going to have to declare yourself inadvertent IMC, right? And at that point, you would have to pick up an IFR clearance. If you don't, then you're going to be flying both IMC and VFR at the same time. That's a really bad decision, all right? That's actually what led to the accident where Kobe Bryant was killed. So as you see, you're starting to punch into the clouds here. It's looking a little nasty. At this point, I would either descend rapidly, or if it was too late, I'd punch into the clouds and call up on guard, squawk 7700, call guard and ask for a emergency IFR clearance. All right. So that is Class Bravo. Just make sure you have a clearance to enter and to exit. The other requirements you're going to need is a transponder with mode 3 and altitude reporting, so you position reporting and altitude reporting. And then you also need ADS-B alt. All right, and that's a newer requirement as of just a few years ago. So we are still in their Class Bravo airspace because it starts at the surface. So let's get a little bit of airspeed. Let's try to exit this airspace as quickly as possible. Now for helicopters, we get a little bit of clearance on what we can do. Typically I need to be 500 feet AGL. Now the weird thing about AGL figures is that most aircraft are not equipped with a radar altimeter, right? Especially general aviation aircraft. Don't believe this aircraft has one. I could be mistaken. I'm not a pro in this one, but now I'm 500 feet AGL, so I'm perfectly legal. And as you can see, I'm about to exit out of this airspace. Oh, I just hit retreating blade stall because I'm going too fast. Talk about that in the aerodynamics video that will be coming out very shortly. So it looks like there's a river that's going south to north here. I see it in front of me. It looks like as soon as I hit that river, according to this chart, I will be out of Class Bravo airspace. So now you can see there's a new ring. All right, there's a new blue ring out here. If you look at it from this bird's eye view, it looks as if I'm still in Class Bravo airspace. But look at this. This little altitude indicator right here says 20 to 70, right? That's 2,000 to 7,000 feet MSL. Well, my radar altimeter right now is reading 270. So I'm illegal because I'm below 500 feet AGL, but let me climb up above 500 feet AGL. Doing too much talking and not enough flying. So now I'm 500 feet AGL, but I'm still below that 2,000 MSL. All right, so now the question is, am I in Echo or Gulf airspace at this point? So we just got cleared for runway 24, and right now we're at Southwest Florida International. And as I zoom out, you're gonna see this magenta ring here, right? So with Class Charlie and Class Bravo, you have to kind of look at these as an upside down wedding cake, right? So we take a wedding cake, it's got several tiers that each get smaller, flip the whole thing upside down. Right in the center here, I am in a surface to 4,000 feet Class Charlie airspace, all right? So the same things are required here, right? We need to have our altimeter, we need to have our transponder set correctly so that they can see where we are and how high we are, right? Because they're gonna be clearing us from other IFR traffic, right? And probably other VFR traffic as well. Now I'm gonna turn off to the right here. We're gonna pull in a bunch of power so we can get to where we're going quickly. So still in Class Charlie airspace. And as I get on course here, let's take a look at the FAR 91.155. So I'd have to get a clearance for takeoff from Class Bravo and Charlie. You also need a clearance to enter the airspace. You can't just go into this Class Charlie airspace whenever you want, willy-nilly, right? So we're still in the center part of the upside down wedding cake, surface to 4,000 feet. And let's see what our cloud clearance and visibility requirements are. It says Class Charlie, 3 statute miles, 500 feet below, 1,000 above, and 2,000 feet horizontal. So if there's any clouds, that's how far away I have to stay from them, right? So let's get some cloud layers going here. Overcast. We'll do overcast at, what are we at? We're at 500 feet. So if we put this right at 1,000 feet, we are just barely legal right here. We'd have to stay right at 500 feet because I'm not supposed to get below 500 feet AGL. All right, and in fact, this is 500 MSL. Let's see what my AGL figure is. It's about the same, right? Because we're in Florida. So in New Orleans and in Florida, most of your airfields are going to be right at about mean sea level, right? Maybe a little bit above. But once you get into higher airspaces, like up in Charlotte or something, up in Asheville, the MSL, mean sea level of your airfield elevation, is going to be a lot higher, so you have to take that into consideration. So you see, if I climb up a little bit here, this is totally illegal what I'm doing right now. Yeah, give me some power. So now I'm going to hit 1,000 feet. I'm going to punch into the clouds almost here, just like I did earlier in that Class Bravo over in New Orleans. The difference is, right here, Class Charlie airspace says I have to be 500 feet below these clouds. So right now we are violating rules of VFR flight, right? So let's just move these clouds up a little higher. Actually, let's check out, how about some scattered clouds? There we go. Or even, let's do few. There we go, that's even better. All right, cool. So I know they're still at 1,000 feet there, right? But if I climb up a little bit, also I'm leaving that inner ring of the Class Charlie airspace. And now this next one, if we look right here, it says it starts at 1,200 feet MSL. So actually right now, I'm just about looking at my barometric altimeter, I'm just about to punch in 1,200 feet. So now I'm still in that Class Charlie airspace, right? But anything below this, I would be in either Echo or Golf, depending on how high off the ground I was. So now let's look at this ominous cloud to the left here. I need to make sure I'm 2,000 feet away from that horizontally. So 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally. That is also known as basic cloud clearance. And it makes it easy because that applies for both Charlie, Delta, and also Echo airspace, all right? Depending on what altitude you're at in Echo. So the chart can get a little hairy, and we'll take a look at it here in a second. All right, so if I get 1,000 feet above these clouds, that's also okay, right? But you gotta remember, there's IFR traffic, and IFR traffic doesn't care at all about cloud clearance requirements, right? They can fly straight through a cloud, and it's totally fine because they're under radar control, right? They've got a transponder and a special transponder code that ATC has given them, and they have their altitude reporting. So ATC is tracking them and clearing them away from everybody else, right? And from me. So we're good to go, but by law, I have to stay 1,000 feet above those clouds, right? If I get too low and they decide to climb up, right? If they get cleared to climb and I'm above them, it's gonna be a little harder for me to see below me than it is above me, right? Hence why it's 1,000 feet instead of 500. So if all of a sudden aircraft comes out of the clouds and I see him climbing, heading right for me, it's actually my responsibility to avoid that traffic, right? Because I am under visual flight rule conditions, right? And I have to see and avoid. That's my job. I don't have ATC doing that for me. All right, cool. So now let's do a fun little cyclic dive. I'm sure the limit in this aircraft is probably about 30 degrees nose low, something like that. So I'll try not to break a limit. You can see my airspeed rapidly increasing. I'm going to remove collective here because I'm about to hit retreating blade stall. So I'm getting on this course. And my course, I'm going to Punta Gorda. And this is a Class Delta airspace. So we'll show you how that works. So I'm below the shelf here, right? The shelf starts up above me at 1,200 feet, right? But being at 800 feet, I'm good. I'm below the shelf. So now what I need to know is, am I in Class Echo or Class Bravo? So what's going to determine that is how high am I AGL, right? So right now I am 700, I'm sorry, let's look at on the ForeFlight. It says I'm 700 feet AGL, right? MSL and AGL are matching up pretty well here, like I said, because I'm in Florida. The terrain here is very low, right? It's right close to the water. So at 700 feet AGL, that means I am in Class Golf airspace. Class Golf airspace is awesome, especially for helicopter pilots, all right? We like to fly low. Fixed wing guys, we like to stay up a little higher. That way, if we lose an engine, we have plenty of distance to glide and find a good spot to land, right? But helicopters, not so much. So let's take a look real quick at what the FAR says about Class Golf airspace. So right here, it says 1,200 feet or less above the surface, regardless of MSL altitude. For aircraft other than helicopters, during the day, you need to have 1 statute mile of visibility. Well, looking off in the distance here, I got plenty of visibility, right? It's pretty much unrestricted. And then it says clear of clouds. Well, great. I am clear of all the clouds. Just don't go into a cloud and you're good to go. So let me put this back to overcast. All right, so now those clouds are 1,000 feet AGL, right? So I'm totally legal to fly like this as long as I need, right? But again, this is for airplanes, what we're reading. So it says night, 3 statute miles of basic cloud clearance. All right, so night, airplanes flying in Class Golf airspace, you're much more restricted. But if we go to the next page, now it talks about for helicopters. All right, so day, half a statute mile of visibility and clear clouds. That's also the same as special VFR minimum. But if I look at night, it says 1 statute mile clear of clouds. So there's really not a whole lot I need to worry about right now. I just need to stay above 500 feet AGL, which is in all cases I need to stay above 500 feet AGL regardless of my airspace. And I just need to stay away from the clouds. So this is really beneficial for helicopters because, like I said, we like to fly low and maybe a little slow. All right. Now the next thing I'm flying into, you might see this big ring here, right here. And you might be wondering, well, what kind of airspace is that? Well, it's not an airspace. That's actually a compass rose for the VOR that's located at the center of that. So if we clear that annotation, you can see right in the middle, it's not depicted here because the VOR, well, it is depicted. The VOR is actually on the airfield. So it's this big white blot right here in the center. All right, and so this compass rose is used for navigating when you're flying IFR, or even if you're flying VFR and you're just using the nav aids to help you navigate, right? So we are not in any special airspace right now. In fact, we're still in Gulf airspace. Now, if I climb to 1,200 feet, you can see there's this magenta ring, right? It's like this pinkish purplish ring where you say it's magenta. So before I get to that ring, if I hit 1,200 feet AGL, let's go ahead and climb up. You see my radar altimeter. I'm getting kind of slow here. Barometric altimeter is saying 1,200. It should be about the same for my height AGL. And if I look at the bottom right of my ForeFlight here, you can see my height and AGL. I'm at 1,200 feet. Now I'm in Class Echo airspace. All right. So let's go back to our FAR here. Class Echo airspace. Less than 1,000 feet MSL, but above 1,200 feet AGL, because below that we're in Echo, right? Unless otherwise indicated. Just pause it real quick right here. So now it says 3 statute miles, and then again our basic cloud clearance requirements, right? 500, 1,000, and 2,000, all right? If I were to climb above 10,000 feet, which I can't right now because I got this overcast layer and I'm flying VFR, over 10,000 feet, I would need 5 statute miles, 1,000 feet, above and below, and then 1 statute mile horizontally, right? So that's way up there, all right? And typically, we're not going to have to worry about flying up there. Ooh, hit some major retreating blade stall there. Active pause got me. So typically, we're not going to spend too much time up there as helicopters, but you might if you live in a place like Denver and you're rescuing skiers or somebody who might have gotten stuck on top of a mountain. You might very well find yourself in those airspaces, right? And get a little bit tricky, the different delineation between Golf and Echo up there. So you just have to be careful. All right, now, when we get to this big magenta ring, these magenta rings are most typical around small airfields, all right? But sometimes you see them around the inner ring here, the inner blue dashed ring. So the magenta ring is signifying Class Echo airspace that starts at 700 feet MSL. So right now, I'm below 1,200 feet MSL, but I'm above 700. And since I'm inside that magenta ring that fades inwards like that, I'm actually in Class Echo airspace right now. So the same rules apply. 3 statute miles, basic cloud clearance. Class Echo airspace, you can fly into it all day without having a clearance or anything like that, right? So let's pause it right here for a second, because we need to tune to Punta Gorda, tune to their tower. And we'll request full stop landing.
Tower Sierra November Alpha Kilo Papa Alpha Kilo is 6 miles south 1,000 feet with Kilo to land.
Sierra November Alpha Kilo Papa Alpha Kilo Tower. Altimeter 29er.9er, 2 wind 276 at 8. Make left base runway 4.
Left base for runway 4. Okay.
Alpha Alpha Kilo wind 276 at 8. Cleared to land runway 4.
Cleared to land runway for Papa Alpha Kilo.
So now I'm crossing over the dashed magenta line here, okay? Get some airspeed going. Crossing over this, the dashed blue line. This signifies Class Delta airspace, all right? Class Delta airspace, conveniently, is the same cloud clearance and visibility requirements as Echo and Charlie, right? 3 statute miles and that basic cloud clearance. But in order to cross into Class Delta airspace, I need to establish positive two-way radio communication. I actually don't need a clearance to come into Class Delta. We see we have a big 2.5 right here. That's telling us the top of this Class Delta airspace. Again, all the numbers you see on this VFR chart, most of them at least, are going to be in MSL. One of the only exceptions I can think of is this tower right here. It says 381 MSL, and then in parentheses, 376, that's an AGL figure. Just about everything else is going to be in MSL. And Class Delta airspace is very often 2,500 feet above the surface. It just so happens right here, Punta Gorda is 26 feet above sea level, right? So they're like, yeah, that's pretty negligible. We'll just say this airspace reaches from surface to 2,500 feet MSL, right? And that's also pretty much an AGL figure as well in this case, right? But typically, you're going to add the airfield elevation plus 2,500, and that should typically give you the top of the Class Delta airspace. Class Delta, you don't need to worry about the upside down wedding cake idea. That's really for Bravo and Charlie only. And Charlie's usually pretty straightforward. It'll be like one base and then one big shelf on top of that. Bravos can get pretty hairy because you got a lot of international traffic coming in and out. Those are the busiest airspaces that you're ever going to fly into. All right, so here's runway 4, and we're in Class Delta, and this goes all the way to the surface. Now the last little bit here is right here. I have dashed magenta box. See this box coming off the northeast? All right, well that tells me that there's an instrument approach that comes in on runway 22. And that is what they call a Class Echo extension. Now, if it's a magenta dash line, that is where Class Echo starts at the surface, right? Gets a little tricky here and a little hairy, but it's the same exact rules. Class Echo is the hardest one to understand. You just need to understand where it's going to start, all right? So right now, I'm still inside. Right now, I'm still inside the Class Delta, and we're going to pick up our speed here a little bit. I'll just go ahead and climb out. They told me to land, so I'm violating what ATC told me to do right now, but I don't really care because I'm in a simulator, and I'm a bad boy. So you're going to see when we get to this Class Echo extension, it's going to be essentially, this would be Class Echo from the surface all the way to 18,000 feet, where Class Alpha would start. All right, so here I come. As soon as I cross this dashed blue line, I'll be in Class Echo, regardless of my altitude, unless I was above 18,000 feet, in which case I'd be in Alpha, right? I have to be on an IFR flight plan. In this helicopter, if I was at 18,000 feet, I would probably pass out from hypoxia. Anything above 10,000 feet, you really need to be careful because the air density just isn't dense enough up there for you to get enough oxygen in your system. Unless you have a pressurized aircraft or you have supplemental oxygen. So here I go. I'm in Class Echo. So pay very close attention here. I'm in Class Echo because I'm in within the magenta dash line. So I'm Class Echo regardless of where I am. Now as I come out of here, I'm going to be within that magenta shaded circle. And from there, it's going to depend on my altitude, right? So right now, I'm at 1,000 feet. Well, this means Echo starts at 700 feet. So I'm still in Class Echo. If I do a cyclic dive here, I dip down below 700 feet. There's 700 feet MSL. Now I'm in Gulf airspace. All right, do a cyclic climb and come back out of this. And we'll go to, let's level off at about 1,000 feet right here. And I'm going to turn out of the airspace. So at about 1,000 feet, I'm above 700. So I'm still in Echo within the shaded area. As soon as I get out of the shaded area at 1,000 feet, I'll be in Gulf because Echo starts at 1,200 everywhere else, right? So there's a lot of circles on this chart. A lot of, see like these tiny airports here, tiny little Class Echo airports, they're everywhere. It's not really like this in most other countries, right? But because we're in America and we invented aviation, we have little airfields everywhere, right? So let's go back to where I was. Cool, I'm coming out of that magenta area, and let me fix my altitude here. 1,000 feet, I'm in Echo, and then as soon as I pop out of the other side, now I'm in Golf. Simple as that, right? And then if I climb up to 1,200 feet, I'm still in Golf, still in Golf, still in Golf. There's 1,000, 1,100, and Echo right there. That's where we just hit Echo airspace. So now, instead of having no cloud clearance requirements, just clear of clouds, now I have to stay 500 below that cloud up there, right? That cloud deck. So it's extremely important to understand what class of airspace you're operating in. Alpha through Echo are considered controlled airspace, but Golf, class Golf, is considered non-controlled airspace. So you can see a little Billy Bob and his little Cessna or a little crop duster flying around. There's even helicopters that do crop dusting. They're all over the place, right? All right, so next we're going to talk about some special use airspace, and then we'll close it out. All right, cool. So we are now here in Low Army Heliport in beautiful Fort Rucker, Alabama, soon to be renamed Fort Novacell. Looking forward to that. All right, now I wanted to just show you up here. This is near Columbus Air Force Base, and you see here it says A443. And we have these these magenta hash marks around here. So this almost looks like a Class Echo, but it's not. What that is an alert area. An alert area is a special use airspace that's just basically telling you there's a high volume of traffic there, all right? So we're gonna come back over to low. And low is, see, this is where it gets kind of tricky. You can barely see it, but low is within a Class Delta airspace here. It's kind of hard to point out, because there's a lot of stuff going on over here, all right? It's also within this giant Class Echo airspace that starts at 700 feet. And then, oops, come on, bud. And then over to the west here, we've got the Rose Hill MOA. We have these magenta little hash marks again, right? MOA is for Military Operations Area. So you might think, man, if I'm taking off, look at those beautiful Lima model Blackhawks, by the way. If I take off over here from the pad, we'll just say tower cleared me, and I start heading west, and I fly into this Military Operations Area, is there like an F-16 that's going to come shoot me down or come intercept me and, you know, tell me to land immediately, call the guys in black suits to come arrest me and take me into a dungeon, torture me? No. In fact, anybody can fly into a Military Operations Area without any prior permission. Crazy, right? But instead of doing that, I'm going to turn right, because I have this blue airspace. It almost looks like a Class Delta airspace to my north. And here it says R-2103 Alpha and Bravo. This is what we call restricted airspace. You cannot go into restricted airspace without prior permission. If you do, somebody on the local approach is going to see you on their radar, and you are going to get a handful, or you're going to get a mouthful, or an earful rather, of going to get an earful from somebody. All right, you have committed a flight violation at that point, and then it's going to be up to you know, whoever's at the FAA to deal with you and figure out what your punishment shall be. So right now, as I enter this restricted area, I am illegal because I was not cleared in. So these are just examples of special use airspace. Let's go ahead and pause it here for a minute. So we have a few more down here. There's a warning area. Warning areas usually extend about 3 miles off the coast, and it's saying there could be some dangerous activity for non-participating aircraft. All right. What I like to use is the acronym WARM PC. All right. If you're going to be the pilot in command, you want to be a WARM PC because you don't want your co-pilot getting all stressed out, right? So I use WARM PC. You have warning area right off the coast. Alert areas like that one we saw earlier at Columbus. That's just a high volume of traffic. Here it is, that alert area. All right, you got your restricted area where you're not allowed to enter, like I'm in right now, violating airspace laws. All right, and then M for military operations area. P is for a prohibited area. You're also not allowed to go into a prohibited area without prior permission, right? And it's you're probably not going to get it unless you're a government aircraft that's supposed to be there. And then the last one is C for a controlled firing area. All right, you can go into there without prior permission, believe it or not. Now, where do I find what altitudes these start at, right? Because it says I'm in this airspace right now. My altitude is reading, 650 feet MSL. Okay, so if I want to know what altitude these special use airspaces start at, I need to pull out the margin, all right, for the VFR sectional. So the reason why it's called a VFR sectional is because these are actually big, giant maps that come out, and they all connect together, right? So you would actually need a whole bunch of them to cover the entire contiguous United States, right? But because I have ForeFlight, and ForeFlight is awesome, you can see I've got all these VFR sectionals, and you can just zoom in, all right? Now, if you're a ForeFlight user, if you go to your settings, you go down here to Map Touch Action and click Bring Chart to Forefront. I can tap here, and did I tap it right? Ah, there we go. Yeah, I tapped it. So I should be in the New Orleans sectional. There it is, the New Orleans sectional, legend, right? And it shows you over here how to connect it to the next map above you, right? But down here in the margins, it's going to tell me everything I need to know about these restricted areas, right? Number 2103 Alpha. Which one am I in again? Let's see here. There's my helicopter. 2103 Alpha and Bravo. Okay, cool. So let's scooch down here. Alpha and Bravo. 2 but not including 10,000 feet. And then 10,000 to 15,000 feet. Time of use is continuous. So right now, to 10,000 feet, but not including where I was at 900 feet MSL. So I am in that airspace, right? The controlling agency is Cairns Approach. And then 10,000 to 15,000 by NOTAMs, right? 6 hours in advance, Jacksonville Center controls that, right? So indeed, if I'm in this one right now, I'm inside an active restricted area, and I'm going to get in trouble because I didn't get prior permission. I didn't contact Cairns Approach or any the controlling. Maybe there's a smaller controlling agency, like a smaller controller just operating in this general area. So there's a lot of videos out there showing you about all the same stuff, but it's really hard to conceptualize on it looking from a profile view or looking from an aerial view on a VFR sectional. I think it's a lot easier to talk about it when we're actually flying in 3 dimensions, right? Like in a flight simulator. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I would kindly appreciate that for the YouTube algorithm. And remember, when we get to 1,000 followers, I'm going to tell you guys a story about how I got the nickname Snack Pack as the Army aviator.